Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Tiki ASMR. Tiki ASMR. And it is good to see you again. I wanted to do another movie review tonight. And this time I wanted to do a soft-spoken review. So I've done one other soft-spoken review, which was of Thunderbolts, I believe, but we'll just do some soft speaking and I'll mix in some hand sounds as well, but I just wanted to talk about Jurassic World Rebirth. So, for those of you that don't know, I watch lots and lots of movies, and one of my favorite movies of all time is the original Jurassic Park by Steven Spielberg. I think it's like a masterpiece, one of the best movies ever made. And then I think his second Jurassic Park movie, um, you know, wasn't the best, but I think it was still pretty solid. And I think every movie since that second Jurassic Park film um, hasn't been very good. I think all of them have been disappointing or flat out bad. So my expectations entering this Jurassic World Rebirth film was pretty low. But my fiance and I, we actually got to see an early screening of it. So even though this review's coming out after 4th of July now at this point, we actually watched this about a week and a half or so ago. And it just happened to be the early showing of Jurassic World as like one of those mystery movie events. So I'll do a spoiler section. So I'll do a spoiler section in the second half of the video, and then the first half will just be my like general thoughts. Just my general thoughts on it. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, I do think that this is actually a upgrade from some of the recent Jurassic World movies. Um, I think when the original Jurassic World, with the brand new park and Chris Pratt, I think that first movie had a lot of potential and it didn't quite live up to it. And then honestly, I think the last couple Jurassic World movies were just not good at all. They really weren't what I was looking for, at least for a huge Jurassic Park fan. And Jurassic World Rebirth, after the first minute of the movie, I had a feeling that I might absolutely hate this movie, and it actually went uphill from there, and turned into probably my favorite Jurassic Park / World film since the second Jurassic Park movie. So, um, I do think it has some good things going for it. There's still definitely some issues and things that I'll bring up in there, but I think this helped get it back on track a little bit because the Jurassic World, I think it was Dominion, is the last one, was probably my least favorite movie of any of them. Um, and at that point, I was like really looking forward to just new cast, new characters, new storytelling from that. So, um, I do think that this is a step in the right direction, but it definitely still had a lot of issues. So, um, we can start with let's start with just the cast. So obviously, a big drawing point of this is just the fact that the dinosaurs, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park. You're expecting to see some dinosaurs or some monster creations in this case. But also, I think the cast was promising, with Scarlett Johansson obviously leading the way. And Scarlett Johansson, is joined by Jonathan Bailey, who plays Dr. Loomis in the film, as well as Mahershala Ali, who plays like her colleague, or kind of like expert at like getting in and out of places. And then there's a group of other characters that I connected with a lot less, and you know, the family that's shown in the film as kind of like a subplot or co-plot. Um, I don't think it was necessarily anything about the characters or actors, but I just felt like they didn't necessarily need to be in the film. I think it was overcomplicating it, and if this was more just like a, um, top secret mission type of movie, I think it would have been a lot more focused and better as a whole. But the fact that, this family who was like going on a sailing adventure, being stranded, is incorporated into the film. I think it leads to some good moments, but it also complicates the story a little bit, which I didn't love. So, um, other good things in this, I do feel like the fact that we are back just kind of on an island for the majority of the movie, um, we do get that sense of the first couple of films that just feel a lot more like exploration mixed in with seeing and dealing with different dinosaurs. And in this film, it touches on this at the very, very beginning, but these are like dinosaurs slash monsters that are kind of like concoctions of different dinosaurs. So in the film, you don't see that many just like traditional dinosaurs. Most of them are just like hybrid monsters, which inherently makes me a little bit less interested in them as a whole. Whereas in the first few Jurassic Park movies, it was very much about, hey, these are obviously man made dinosaurs, but they are as true to the traditional historic dinosaurs as possible. And then in Jurassic World, um, it gets a lot more into the hybrid mixing of dinosaurs, and this one continues on that theme, um, which I don't love, but it's also not the end of the world. Um, and I just think the fact that these are like in their natural habitat on an island, and they're like, you know, embracing these people that are invading their territory, I think it does a good job of at least bringing back the heart of the first couple of films. So I did think that that was well done. Um, I do think that Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, not their best performances, I would say. I think they both do like a B plus job. They are definitely the best parts of the film. Um, and I think they're just likable, like, people in general, actors in general, so they really help sell the movie. And you do get a little bit of their backstories, but definitely not as much as like the original Jurassic Park, which was a big drawing point as to why I still love that movie to this day. But cast aside, what do I think about the plot as a whole? So, despite the family aspect that I think almost wasn't really needed, I think the plot that they're going for at least makes sense and does some interesting things. Of essentially, they're trying to do this top secret mission to secure like genetic material in order to combat like cancer or like other diseases. Um, so there's like a lot of money to be made, obviously. Um, and then I think the pacing of the story works really well. I'm trying to remember how long the movie is. I'm not sure how long it is exactly, but it definitely didn't feel like it dragged. I think it had really good pacing. Oh, right here, 134 minutes. So, what is that? 2 hours and 14 minutes. But I thought the pacing was pretty good for a Jurassic World, Jurassic Park type movie. And I do think that there's a lot of rewarding action sequences and scenes. Um, some of them do feel like they are ripped off from previous Jurassic World movies, but there are a couple really good action sequences, specifically with the dinosaur monsters, that work well. And then I actually really like the ocean scenes. There's 2 to 3 like ocean water type scenes that um, I think are some of the better scenes in the movie as a whole, and I think those worked really well. Let me see, what else did I want to discuss? The comedic elements in the film, I think there were some that I enjoyed, although it does feel a lot more like, I don't want to say corny, but it feels a lot more unserious than the first couple of films as well. Where in those films there's obviously like comedic elements in them, um, but it's still like a scary situation, and the characters for the most part are still taking these moments very seriously when they come up. Um, I feel like this movie is very unserious at times. Um, and it's not that the movie has to be serious, but I think the balance was just a little bit off. Um, so I do think it was kind of a mixed bag of some things I liked, some things I didn't. And then overall, I think that the plot and the characters are sufficient, but don't do anything incredibly special. So, um, with the budget that they had to make this movie, I still kind of expect something a little bit better, but this was actually not a terrible watch for a Jurassic Park slash World movie. And if you're someone that's watched all of the previous ones, you're obviously going to watch this regardless. If you weren't a big fan, uh, if you weren't a big fan of the previous Jurassic World movies, I would say that this one is still slightly better than those ones. And I think it has some things that are going for it that the other ones didn't. Um, and overall, rating wise, so on Letterboxd, where I do my movie reviews and my movie ratings, I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. And 2.5 for me just means that it is a below average movie, but it does still have some good sections or some good scenes or some good characters to get behind. Like an average movie, for me is like a 3 stars out of 5. An average but memorable or slightly above average movie is a 3.5. And then a 2.5 means like, I didn't hate watching it. I don't think it's like a terrible movie, but I'm probably not going to revisit it. And or I think it's just a little bit below average. So that ended up being my overall rating for it. I do think that um, I'd encourage you to at least watch it, give it a chance, because I do think it is better than some of the other movies that Jurassic World. I think I gave a lot of them like 2 or 1.5 stars, where this is better than those in my opinion. Um, but you also don't necessarily have to see this in theaters. If you wanted to wait till it gets out on streaming services, I think you can definitely watch it then and be just fine to watch it there. But that's going to be the non-spoiler section of the film, or of this review of the film. And then for the spoilers, so this is your spoiler warning for if you're wanting to watch the movie first or not have things spoiled. Feel free to leave and then come back to this. But for spoilers, starting off with the very first scene in the movie, and the reason why I thought this might be a terrible movie, is this movie starts out in a way that I think is just so dumb, so unrealistic, so stupid, where one of the workers in this like $1 million lab is eating a Snickers bar. No joke, they're eating a Snickers bar, and then they drop the wrapper on the ground and like enter in this um, dino lab where they're like feeding this like giant monster T-Rex hybrid looking thing. And no joke, the Snickers wrapper gets sucked into a vent in a door, and this Snickers wrapper completely malfunctions the entire lab because a Snickers wrapper got sucked into a vent door. um, and that is just so dumb to me. Like, A, that would never happen. B, if this lab is dealing with these types of creatures, it has so much money, there's no way that something as silly as like a sheet of paper or a wrapper from a candy bar could cause this amount of damage. And I really wish they had done something else to cause the malfunction, because the fact that it was a Snickers wrapper just seems so dumb to me. Um, and I remember looking over at my fiance once that happened, and I looked over at my fiance and I said, "This movie's gonna suck." And it actually, I think that was probably the worst part of the entire film. But it is something that they decided that they wanted to open up their movie with that scene. And I think that's just a terrible look for a film, because you really want the first scene and the last scene to work really well, and then you want the whole movie to work well. But if the first scene or the last scene is really bad, that's what a lot of people are going to remember about it. Um, so that was something that I just really hated. And then, while there is some character development for some of the characters, I do feel like some of the relationships don't really get resolved, or some of the characters just feel like dino fodder. So, like, Ollie's crew in the movie, there's like three different characters that are just essentially there that are just there to be like killed or eaten by dinosaurs, and that's exactly what happens. Um, and then for the relationship stuff, so in the movie, there's the family where it's the father and his like older teenage daughter, and then a younger daughter, and then the older daughter's boyfriend, Xavier. And Xavier is a character that I think is just so comically unrealistic at times. And I do think it led to a couple funny moments, so I'll give it that. But he just doesn't seem like someone that actually exists. Like at the beginning, when the father's like, steering the boat, he's like, "Hey Xavier, like it's your shift," like, and you know, the daughter's boyfriend Xavier's like, "Oh, don't you have it?" Like, oh, he's just coming across as very like lazy and ungrateful, and just like, I know there are people like that, but it's so over the top, where it's like you were invited on this like very cool adventure trip, and usually you are wanting to make a good impression. He's just doing the exact opposite. So it's not the most realistic thing. And then as the movie goes along, Xavier and the father of the family, start to see a little bit more eye to eye, and the father is starting to see like these qualities that he really respects in him. Um, but it never feels like that relationship truly gets like, I don't know, finalized or resolved. It's just kind of like a head nod, wink, wink sort of thing. But I think they could have done more with that relationship, as well as the relationship with the father and his daughters, as well. And then some other issues that I had um, is just um, the sailing scene in general in like restricted waters or potentially dangerous waters. It seems like the father and the daughters are like surprised that they're seeing dinosaurs, when at the beginning of the film it's very clear that like, yes, everyone's aware that there are dinosaurs, and everyone's aware that they exist in this part of the world or near this part of the world. Um, and it just kind of seemed like the movie expected us to um, believe that the characters were as surprised to see dinosaurs in that area as like we are. Um, but I feel like the characters in this world would know based off of everything that we've seen leading up to that point, that like, hey, there's a chance that you'll see them here, or there's a chance that this could be dangerous in this area. Um, so that was another issue that I had there. Um, so those are just some of the negatives. And then for the scenes, like as I mentioned, there's a couple like scenes that just kind of feel like rip-offs of the original movie or one of the previous movies. So most specifically, I'm thinking of like the pterodactyl velociraptor hybrids are like in I believe it's a gas station. They're in like a gas station, um, you know, clip clopping around trying to track down the family that they're like sniffing out, trying to find in there. And it just feels like the exact same kind of setup as the restaurant kitchen scene from the original Jurassic Park. And I think that movie does it a lot better. Um, this one is fine, but it just felt like a ripoff of that to me. Um, Ultimately, I think this movie, any movie with dinosaurs, I just find interesting, whether they're like genetically modified or like weird monster hybrids or not. So it's always enough for me to just tune in, but um, movie definitely left a lot to be desired still. Um, and then there's just some unrealistic spots of just like you can tell which characters in this series or this movie have plot armor and which ones don't. Where Ollie's character at the end seems like he's in a situation where, hey, he's not going to get out of this alive. He does, and I didn't really ever expect him to die. Um, just because I imagine if they make more movies, they want him and Johansson to be in that as well. And the situation that he gets put in at the end of the movie with the giant T-Rex monster, and he's like, you know, carrying a flare and like running around with it, going into the water with it. It just doesn't seem like realistic at all that he'd be able to get out of that situation, but he does. And the part that I don't like is it doesn't really show how he gets out of it. If it showed like, this is how he did it, the flare went out and then he like dove underwater, did this or that, I could understand a little bit more. But this movie just has him essentially like arrive later on, a couple minutes after this sequence, to get to safety after. And you don't really see or understand how he got himself out of the situation. You're just expected to be like, oh, he's awesome. He got out of it somehow. So, yeah, I would say there's definitely a lot of negatives or issues that I had with the film. Um, Overall, I do think that the heart of the movie was still in the right place. And I do think that the dinosaur sequences were a lot cooler in this film than ones in previous movies. And I think a lot of the CG effects and some of the practical stuff that they did worked well. It did seem like it was well shot overall. Um, and I think the scale of the movie and the jungle scenes and just nature outdoor type scenes I think worked well too, where I could see myself as like a little kid like really falling in love with this movie, just from an adult perspective and just kind of analyzing plot and character motivations and development and things like that. I think this movie just falls short for me, but I still think that it's slightly better than some of the previous movies. And if this is an indication of what's to come, I do think it's at least getting on the right track. And I also think that this movie, without the incredibly stupid Snickers scene at the beginning and just a couple tweaks of scenes in the middle of the movie, this easily could have been like a three, potentially a 3.5 out of 5 movie. It's just some of those glaring issues that dropped this down to a 2.5 out of 5 for me. So that's going to do it for this Jurassic World Rebirth review. I hope you enjoyed the soft-spoken review, And if you've seen this movie, please comment down below what you enjoyed, what you didn't, or if you are on Letterboxd or just want to rate it out of 5, please let me know as well. So you can go in half increments, so 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, or 5 stars. Comment down below what you would rate it, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So I'll go ahead and let you go for today, but thanks for tuning in as always, and I'll be back again with another video very, very soon.